What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. Oh, how the heck are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Pretty good, thank you. So, you are obviously on vacation right now, so thank you for joining me on vacation.
Yes, sir.
Much appreciated. So you're down in Florida, which means one, you're away from your tank, which is kind of half of our topic about autopiloting your tank and going away from it. And two, I also know you got to go check out the new WWC store for the first time, which is pretty awesome.
Three times. I've been here for a week. I'm looking to see if my wife is looking, but three times. Checked it out three times.
That is awesome. It is such a cool store. Isn't that a big peninsula, or not peninsula, like lagoon tank amazing when you walk in the door?
It is amazing. You know, when my son walked in, my young son, he was like, "Wow, it is so clean." And then I didn't realize I brought my friends' kids there. It's kids level. So if you have a
Yeah.
young kid, like they walk in, they see right through the water. It is awesome.
Oh, so cool. I haven't seen it lately. I was there like opening day, the first day they opened it, which was super cool, but it's probably grown in and way more filled in by now.
The mangrove is huge. So before I went, I watched, I think you did a video on it. I think I watched a lot of social media. I watched the
Hmm.
video where Jake Adams was in the tank, and
Yeah.
that thing is grown now. They say they're in there every week cutting stuff. The mangrove is huge.
Oh, that's so cool. Have you ever done mangrove?
I do not, but you know what? I am inspired now because I just set up a 25 lagoon. So
Hmm.
I'm actually inspired to try like a little kind of the same thing they're doing, just in a mini format.
Yep.
So especially since I have the Kessel so high over the tank. So I'm willing to I'm gonna try it. I was inspired going to that store. I was.
I really like them. One of these days, I think I can do just like a little mini lagoon tank just for fun. Just, I don't know, a mangrove would be cool. It's like an indoor tree. But yeah, it's super awesome, and there's so many fish. I mean, like you said, the kids' height is super cool, and you just get. I mean, it's huge, but there's so much depth to it, which is like super cool.
So many different corals. I actually was able to um walked a little baseboard behind, got some over the top. They said they had a Monty in there that's bouncing. I guess because things in there are so happy, like the polyps look like it's almost like a
Yeah,
bounce mushroom. I didn't see that or was able to capture that on video, but that was cool. But everything in there, just everything in Worldwide Corals just looks so happy and healthy. I will have a digitata, and my digitata, what I thought looked great, but I was just looking and I was like, man, the digitata in their lagoon tank looked
mhm.
great. We haven't even gone to like the 1200 in the back yet. Jeez.
Yeah,
Just the lagoon. The lagoon was awesome. It is the perfect just opener when you walk into it's the perfect showpiece for the store.
yeah, nice. That's super awesome. Now, there's a lot of other cool tanks in there, like you're just saying the 1200 gallon to the back. So you obviously check that one out too.
I checked that one out, and the first visit I went, I was actually on the phone with Greg Carroll.
Yeah,
And I was like, Greg, man, Greg was telling me, hey, when they started that tank, they started with frags like about a year and a half ago. And I'm like, man, when that tank grows out, like this is gonna be cool. And Greg is like those are colonies. And I had like like an epiphany where you have to, and he's like,
the
you're
scale.
looking through like 2 inch glass, and some of those things you're describing, they're like 3 or 4 feet away from you.
Yeah,
So then I was like, whoa. So then on my
that is
second
grown up.
visit, I actually got to go behind and see the filtration and take some top
Hmm.
down video. So that's when I like Dev, we've met before. We're tall people. I
Yeah,
got giant hands. You know that some of those things that I was looking at and said, hey, that's a mini colony, they were as big as my hands.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
I just thought of it now, but they have like I think three or four yellow tangs in that tank in the back. Then that's what actually inspired me to try it in my tank. I was like, hey, if they can get away with this many tanks in here, I was like, yeah,
Casper is also in that tank. Their
is he
mascot Casper's in that tank too. Yeah. So
nice?
um, that yeah, some huge panta ray. I had a conversation with Alex G, who's doing a
Hmm.
big tank. So they're using like hydro wizards on that tank, delivering a ton of flow. Those tanks are just awesome.
They're huge. They're so cool though.
Yeah, looks so clean. Um, there's not it's almost like the Apple store of fish
Aquariums.
stores.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. clean. There's not even so it's also so obviously I'm on vacation. That's another part of the discussion. When I'm looking at my tank through like my camera, I'm like, looks so janky because I even have the algae magnet on the front. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you realize when you went to Worldwide Corals, like you're just seeing tank. It's like the beautiful window you're looking through to the reef where they don't even have algae scrapers or anything else. Feeding clips, they don't have anything on the tanks. You're just looking at tank water corals. Even the way the stands are, all you're seeing is just tank, corals, fish, rock. Well, not even rock because the corals are grown. So when I was even looking through it, I saw my two little fishies algae magnet over here, and then my big like flipper tunsy thing, and I'm like,
you gotta clean that up. So now when you go back home, are you going to change that? Are you going to like hide all that stuff? Or are you
I'm going to put it at least on the side. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I had already started before I left to sort of like put the vortex on the back, but yes, that is going to, that is something I'm going to work. That is something I'm going to work on.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of hiding equipment, especially like for like a display tank, because it's like your living art in a way, right? So you got to keep it pristine.
It is. I was inspired seeing that. Yep. I see a lot of people saying they're going to plan a trip to WWC. It is worth it. And
if you're in Orlando, 100%.
Oh, you said someone's here?
No. I said if you're down in like Orlando area, Florida, like 100% worth it.
Yep. And when I told you, like, I didn't name drop, I didn't do anything. So the people who gave me like the behind the scenes, like, I didn't ask for any special treatment. I was just in the store and they were like, hey, like, we see you shooting video of the tank. Like, do you want to see how the filtration is? So it wasn't like I got special treatment. It was just, I made friends, like the people who I knew, like I know Carlos, who's one of the managers there. Like, he didn't give me the tour. He was there, but it's just employees just seeing your passion. And I guess see you hanging out with your kids in the store for an hour. They were like, see you looking at this tank and you're staring at it. Do you want to see the filtration behind it? So
heck yes, I do.
Yeah. Didn't get to see the farm because it was a weekday and the time I was there today, and there's a lot of people working there, and I don't want to disturb that, but I got to see a display, like one of the grow displays in the back, which was a reef tank, like a 750-gallon reef tank. That was also cool. So there wasn't a bad. Like bad is like I'm diminishing them by saying bad. Like everything, like there was a Zoa tank. What I like is that I think for most standard tanks that either reefer or if you're starting up a reef would want, they have something that fits it or closely fits it on display. So I saw like a Zoa tank. I never thought of this before. They had a tank, like I think the AI branded tank.
The little Ecotech tank and the AI tank. They had like, and one other one, I think they had 3, if I recall.
I don't remember the AI. I don't remember. But I think the AI tank had either crushed coral or calcium reactor media on the bottom, and that they put zoas on it. So the zoas were just, spreading out on one side, and then they had recordias on the other, and it was so cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it was so cool. It was so cool. I mean, yeah, it was an experience. I loved every minute. Like I said, 3 different occasions I visit. I meant to go visit some of the other stores in Orlando, but I just ended up at Worldwide Corals 3 times.
3 times. Oh, that's awesome. So it was a good memorable visit.
It was a good memorable visit. Absolutely. I saw the last store, and this is definitely like newer, cleaner lines, product displayed. I don't know if you remember, they had the different sections, like a Brightwell section. Everything was neat. It wasn't just like, hey, here's a shelf and we have products on the shelf. Everything was organized into basket. I saw a huge bulk resupply section, which is the first time I've seen bulk resupply retail like laid out like that. So you could go in and get bulk resupply 2-part Kalkwasser.
That's cool.
It had a TV section, like displaying, like with Ryan talking about like some of the YouTube videos, Ryan talking about products. And And it was just, yeah, so you could stand there and watch, videos of like the same products you're seeing in person. So it was
That's
cool.
cool. Ah, that's pretty cool to. Huh. So okay, was there any like takeaways? Like obviously you want to like keep up all the clutter off of your tank. Was there any other like lessons learned or things that you epiphanies or inspirations that's come out of your multiple visits?
Um, for 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 how beautiful the tanks were and how colorful the corals were, the tanks were really simple. Like I know you a bit. I consider you a friend. I don't think you
Hmm.
and I will ever go to a simple reef tank because we're just gearheads. But I think Worldwide Corals tank, for how beautiful the corals were, I think they were relatively like simple,
They
and they
are.
had a ton of flow.
I
Like
didn't think they have
the
controllers
SPS
on them. They're
tanks.
like high flow, feed the heck out of it, decent filtration. Like they keep it
Mhm.
pretty simple in the grand scheme of things. Like our tanks are
Yep,
way
they
more
do.
overcomplicated than theirs are super simple.
Yep, I think so. Even like just going back to the Lagoon tank, those Radion Gen 5s, they're like about 5 feet over the water
Hmm.
and still growing SPS Montes and Acros 5 to 6 feet behind them. And I heard they're not they're not
Not even 100%. I watched some
they're
video
not
about that
running them at
actually recently.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
I watched Lou's video, and the same thing with the 1200. Like, you imagine those corals at the bottom are 5 6 feet away from where the lights are, and they are running them at, you know, and that 1200 they cut it every week, every 2 weeks, because
Yeah.
there is a frag section at the back where you saw the clippings that came out of that tank last week that they're coloring up and
Yeah.
waiting to encrust. So they cut
Yeah.
their tanks. I'm never at. I hope I get to that point once where you can cut your tank every 2 weeks.
Well, okay.
Wow.
So what I mean, once it grows a certain amount, definitely. But now I did one of the videos I did with Wincy like a year or two, probably 2 years ago now. But that's the same thing. She said, actually fragging it helps stimulate coral growth to an extent. Obviously, you don't want to frag too much, but it could also help it grow faster, especially once you already have a decent sized colony. You don't want to frag your tiny frag, but once it actually is a decent size, then there's some logic there.
Yep. And you know what? I've seen when I first started like buying corals online, I would go to Worldwide Corals, the website, and I would go look at bounce mushrooms, and the sticker shock would like get to me.
Yep.
But looking at the prices today, hanging around the store, doing some price comparison, the prices are great, like within reason. And
Hmm.
obviously, again, I'm looking again to see if my wife is listening. I did spend money,
What'd you buy?
and I'm gonna get everything shipped home. But even
Hmm.
stuff you buy and ship, it's a 10-day warranty, which is.
Nice.
I hope I don't sound like an ad for Worldwide Corals. Like I don't, but it was just an experience. Like the stuff looks healthy,
Hmm.
the prices weren't crazy, and you get a 10-day warranty when stuff gets shipped. So I bought like this crazy long tentacle anemone that looks like it was like what's the crazy torch name these days? Like
Oh, Holy Grail and Hellfire and
yes,
yeah.
it had the Holy Grail torch colors, so I
Oh,
bought
nice.
that. Yeah, and I think I wanted something blue. I was looking for an Oregon torch and couldn't find
Hmm.
it, so I found like an Acro that had a nice blue skin. And I ended up buying like some acans and this crazy hammer that I've never seen before.
What is it?
But yeah, I don't know what it was. Definitely branching,
Hmm.
um, but
What
yeah, like
color?
the prices. Like I saw Scolies in the $100 to $200 range. They had bleeding apple Scolies for $200. So yeah, the prices were. When I saw the price of the name, I was like, I gotta have that. I'll take that.
Nice.
I will definitely take that. Yeah. And my stuff is being shipped next week.
That's handy.
So I don't know if they have eBay auctions, but I'm gonna try and see if I can win some eBay auctions this weekend and just add it to my order.
Oh, sweet. That'd be all right, eh? Now, okay, so you got some good loot, which is awesome. So we expect to see photos later. How
Yep.
do. Okay, so how's your tank been faring back home? Now, have you? Because I know
Um.
you're geeky into the automation just as much as I am. So
Yes.
have you had any worries about your tank, or is it you can look at your controller, you're like it's fine? Any issues?
So there's a couple of things that, so one, I kind of did the big no-no, which is I installed something right before I left, which is the big no-no.
Yeah.
Because we spoke about, that's like the number one rule. Do not mess with your tank, like right before you left.
That's true.
Um, I installed an Alcatronic. I expected it to come like a few days before I left, but I installed it and it's been working
Nice.
well since I left. But a couple of things that has helped me, look at the tank while I'm gone. I put a ring camera on a tripod right in front of the tank. So, when it's time to look at it, I can just log into my, ring camera and just see. I did tape like an orange filter over like I popped it out of one of
Yeah.
those glasses and taped it over, but after a few days it
Perfect.
fell off. So,
Ah.
but that's cool.
Yeah.
And then I use my hydros really to kind of feed. I didn't set up like an automatic feeder. I went in and just waited because I want to see what's happening. So I turn on the camera and then turn on the hydros. I turn on the ring camera on my phone, turn on the hydros, and watch the auto feeder, feed, see how the fish react. Sometimes I think there were a few times where I didn't think they got fed enough because the feeding response. So I did another rotation. But it's really been the hydros, the
Do you have the
Alcatronic.
do you have the hydros feeder?
I do have the Hydros feeder, the Hydros Wi-Fi feeders. I have a couple of those. So the Hydros Wi-Fi feeders, the Alcatronic, and my ring camera.
Nice. It's cool how they Alcatronic goes in the hydros wirelessly. I love that. It's a nice
Yes,
feature.
I like. Yeah, he did ask me like, what do you want to add? And I said, why? I saw that when I was adding. I didn't know that was a thing. So when I was adding the actual feeder, it says Wi-Fi device, and one of the options was an Alcatronic. I was like, ooh,
Heck
that
yeah.
is.
No
Um,
wires. That part's good.
yep,
So
yep. I left backup fans, kind of like my backup heater,
mhm.
backup, cooling in New York. So I left an extra container off RO water
Yeah.
and then had a Tunzi ATO, plug the Tunzi ATO in to refill my ATO container just in case I did run out of water. But
An
I
ATO
don't
for
think
your
it got to
ATO.
the point. Yeah, ATO for your ATO. I think we
Perfect.
discussed that last time I was on. It
Yeah.
never got to that, but
It's good.
it was like a good backup option.
Now, when you're gone, do you have anyone check up on your tank, or you just strictly camera and whatever you can do from your phone?
I had I had someone stop by I think twice, but it was just a check.
Yeah.
Um, I am outside, Dev, and I do hear like the insects starting to make noise. So if it ever gets, just let me know.
Okay. Can't hear anything yet, so you're good. For WWC, the monthly box membership, does anyone know whether they keep track of what they've already sent you so you don't get it twice? I don't know. I've never tried their subscription box. If I lived in the States, I probably would, because that'd be a cool way to stock up on corals.
I think they do, and I could be wrong, but that 1200, which I hear, which is what I was told, they keep a lot of their nice stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where the Coral Club, because I think they're talking
Yeah.
about the Coral Club.
Yeah.
That's where you get a lot of the Coral Club stuff. So I think they keep track of your account.
Okay. Probably. It would make sense.
Yeah,
It'd be fun. I don't know how much it is, but it sounds fun.
yeah, yeah. The stuff looks nice coming out of the 1200. I do have a video of that, but man, they put so the stuff that see this these guys have the stuff down to a science. Dev stuff that gets cut out of that 1200 goes under T5s, and I think it's the only T5s WWC runs. But they say that helps the corals encrust faster. So it comes out of the LEDs, and I guess they put it under T5s. But that's the only T5s I saw in
Interesting.
the store. Yeah,
I wonder what the rationale. Do you think it actually does help them cross faster?
that's what they said, and I don't think they would go through the like they use LEDs everywhere else, and
Yeah.
I don't think they would go through the trouble of using T5s in that one specific. So it must be something they noticed. And I don't know Lou and Vic personally, but from what I can see, with they're like this is their life. They're obsessed with this stuff. So
I do.
I'm
I'm gonna
pretty
ask
sure
them.
there's a reason. Yeah,
I'm gonna ask them. I need to know this now. I'm curious. Okay. Huh. No, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, because like even their farms all 100% LEDs, right? So that's why I was wondering the rationale.
All
Sorry.
radiance.
Yeah.
Look, I took a peek because you can see like the farm through the side doors, and I got a quick peek. Yep. Um,
Just to see
yeah,
them, eh?
radiance. Yeah, it was an action. Got a quick peek, but people were working, and I had two kids with me who kept running around. So you don't want to go into someone's workspace with. But it was good. It was an overall great experience.
Nice. Oh, that's super cool. Now, okay, wait, question for you. So your main tank, you have a camera on. You have multiple tanks. What about the rest of them?
Yeah, so I have three tanks at the moment.
Yeah.
Two are connected in my living room, so one camera covers both.
Okay.
The other tank is running its own hydros, and it has enough. It's running a hydros control too, and it has enough sensors to let me know kind of what's happening without me needing to monitor that. So I don't want to say that tank is less priority, or I don't want my kids to hear me say that tank is less priority because it's their tank. But I think that tank is more on autopilot than my other tank because it's 25 gallons. I could do I don't technically have any dosing on it. I just do a little bit of calc drip. But it has no dosing, skimmer. If the skimmer overflows, it doesn't go outside the tank. So I think that tank is more, I tend to do like a huge water change once every 6 weeks, like 100% water change. It doesn't have any SPS. It's a really easy tank. So I kind of worry about that less.
Oh, interesting. No, that's fair. So it's pretty easy. Now is that just like the anemone clownfish in that one, or is that a different one?
That is a 25 Lagoon. No, that is,
Okay.
it has mostly acans. It has mostly softies, some Nepthias and things like that, and maybe a couple of Goniporias, mostly Zoas that are going out of control. And then, but nothing with a stone. I think the only thing with maybe stony coral is probably a Duncan. So it's
Okay.
it's an easy tank.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not bad then. Awesome. Now both your tanks are connected in the living room. So do they share the
Yep.
same sump?
They share the same sum.
Okay, so it's pretty easy then. If one's happy, the other one's pretty much good to go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Farm Frags, I think, do they want to see your tank?
You sent me a video earlier. I'm gonna see if I can play that video.
I
Is
think
it?
that's WWC.
It is. I haven't
Yeah,
watched
that.
it yet.
Do I have? Hold on a second. Let me see. Oh, this is not. I don't know how this is gonna work.
So which tank is that one? The video you sent me earlier, that clip. That's one of the WWC displays. Is that the Lagoon or a different one?
Let me see what I sent. I don't remember what I sent. My
Okay.
phone is actually running out of space. The amount of videos I took.
No problem.
That's actually the one you did the thumbnail from. That is actually the one. Oh, the one I sent you the clip earlier. That is actually the 1200, just top down view from the 1200.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's a top down view from the 1200. And the screenshot I sent you, that is my wife just sent me a message that she's watching me, so gotta be careful
Dun, dun,
when you say
dun.
that. So the top down view, the one I sent you, that is from a grow tank that's in the farm.
Okay, nice. Do they still have theirs? I don't remember, is that store or the other store, but they had this like little 2-gallon tank that was on their counter that was like packed to the brim of like super cool stuff.
So they have, from what I remember, 4 nanos. I think there's one that looks like it has a curved edge, so I'm guessing that's a JBJ.
Yep.
It has I think it's like, it has to be about 3 or 4 gallons, and it has a huge colony of Montipora digitata in it. There's another one that has some really nice hammers. They have a bunch of tanks. There are a couple of nano tanks from like Waterbox, JBJ, and a few other manufacturers, all between the maybe 5 to 1 gallon range, and they're all doing well.
Yeah.
So maybe in the form that you remember, the tank doesn't do well, but yeah, they have a couple of desks.
Okay.
that do well there. They have
Now,
a couple of really small tanks that do well.
so with the little tanks, like I'm fairly certain I remember them saying they just give that like basically like 100% water change once a week. And that was basically, I think, it. Like it was super duper easy, which goes to show because like even the 20 gallon that I used to have was super duper easy, and I literally just gave it like a 1 bucket water change every week. So you don't always need a big tank. Like little tanks can be super easy, especially if you just give it a big regular water change. Good for that.
Remember when the I don't think narrative is the right word, but you remember when we were told that the bigger the better, like you just want to get as big a water volume as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that not that they're not that that wasn't solid advice, but I think a nano tank. The thing about a nano tank is, in my opinion, is if there's something wrong, you can do a 100% reset um,
Easy.
with it and get back to zero. If you think something's good or you've misdosed something or things aren't looking good, you can just,
Yeah.
like a 5 gallon bucket and you've done a 100% reset. So you've
Mm-hmm.
removed 100% of whatever is doing.
The
I
problem.
remember, I forgot. I've gotten good advice from so many people, but I forgot whose video I was watching, and someone was setting up like a mixing station, and I remember the person was like, "Hey, like I want to make sure I can do a 50% water change," and I
Mm-hmm.
remember thinking like, "Oh, I got a Red Sea reefer, and I do 5 gallon buckets, so that's nothing." Like if you've done like if you have something going wrong and you've done like a 5 gallon bucket out of a 75 gallon tank, like that's nothing. That's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Ooh, Tracy.
Dang, Tracy. Thank you so much. Weekly support of Awesome ReefDudes channel. 100% hit that like button. Thank you, Tracy. Dang, and thank you very much. Hit that like
Hey,
button. Make sure to subscribe.
if I wasn't in Florida and it wasn't hot, Tracy, I'd get up and do that dance. I'd get up and do a dance. But all right.
I broke myself today. I somehow pulled a muscle and I'm like feeling it.
Back to nanos and WWC for a second.
Yes.
You saw that section where you can get like saltwater on tap, and
Yes.
the price is there. It's like 150 for like Brightwell, like maybe 135 for like Instant Ocean,
Is
and
that per
then
gallon or?
150 or something for accuracy from Two Little Fishies.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you have a nano and you just come in every 2 weeks and get two containers filled. You don't have to dose, and that's just $10 a month in maintenance. You just, you have some RO water. You can buy
Yep.
some RO water or distilled water on top of, but you just come in and get 2 5 gallon buckets filled and you're good. So I really do. I saw that and I was like, that is actually cool. Like if you have a 5 gallon or below, you just come in, fill your bucket, $10. No need to dose, no need to have a doser. You
Mm-hmm.
just, as long as you don't have stony corals that are going to get big or pull a lot of new, things, you can just come in and just do you know,
Yeah. It's easy. I don't know. I think more people, I think too, with like a lot of people getting reefing or apartments in smaller places, right? So nanos make a lot of sense in those situations, or even like an office tank, and just super duper easy maintenance. So everyone says big, but fun can be small too. And there's so many creatures. I'm a terrible example because I keep going bigger, but there's so many cool creatures that would just get lost in a big tank. In a little tank, you can appreciate them and you actually see them, and it's like a whole nother world. So it's cool and
I
easy.
agree.
Yep.
I fully agree. Um,
You're
one, I keep going back to WWC, but
That's okay.
man, did you see the scale? The cool thing with the scale where you can
Oh,
do your
aquascaping?
aquascape and you have,
Yeah.
yes, that is. So you take like it's the table where you test out your aquascaping, but it's a scale. So right then and there, as you're putting the scale together, like you have, you can, you know what bucket you're taking from, so like this costs $5 a pound. But as you're doing your aquascape, you can see exactly how much rock you're using. And I don't know, like why I had so much fun like playing with that. It just seems so cool. Like, oh, this piece of branching rock here, that's actually 3 pounds. So I found that really really cool. Just having not only having a space where you can play with rock, but just
Hmm.
having
You can know
having
exactly what it
it
costs
like
as you
to
add them.
scale. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the only part is good luck rebuilding it when you get home. You'll be like, this looks awesome. And you'll be like, how did these rocks go together again? You have to take so many pictures to try and recreate it. But it'd be pretty sweet.
I had so I got, I think they're called a pair of rhomboid wrasses a couple weeks ago.
I have no idea what those
Very
are.
nice fish. Yeah, I think if you look, they're on Live Aquaria. They're very expensive. And my chromis, which is a very, I'm not going to say cheap, but inexpensive fish. And he was harassing, my chromis were harassing my rhomboid wrasses. And David, I had to basically take my aquascape apart to get the chromis out. And when I was finished, the tank looked, I mean, by the time my wife and I put the thing together, we couldn't get it to fit. I mean, I made the rocks modular so you can take them out, and
Yeah.
but once you've taken them out, like you can't get them to fit the same
Just
way.
right.
So it's just, so I ended up having to put more rock in, blue, and then you have this, the tank's been up for a year, so you have this purple coralline rock, and then you just have these pieces that stick out like a store thumb that are white, and you know, you have new epoxy putty. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, that works. Okay, quick. One random thing with the epoxy or cement, if you kind of like make little cradles to like impression parts of the rock, I find that's like the only good way of getting it back together, or like just glue key pieces but not everything.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just that always happens. It happens when you're doing an aquascape at the store and then you go home, you can't put it back together. But in the tank, once you've moved something, it's like it just, you just never get it to fit the way it was before.
Yeah, it's true. I remember because I pre-built my escape and then I put it into like a big brute to cycle it. And it took me ages to try and get it similar to what I originally had. You gotta have cameras on tanks. I don't have a camera on my tank actually. Eventually one day I'll do it, but be good.
Tracy said she'd love to get her hands on some Versa. Worldwide Corals has them. I counted 15. I was like, what are you guys doing? Are you hoarding these? They had 15 on the shelf. They're in stock.
Oh, they
But I think
exist.
you can get them at most places now. I think Boat Resupply and a lot of places have them in stock now.
Yeah, they've been upping it constantly, how much they do for output. So they're coming back in stock finally, which is good. I need 2 more.
Did you
They're
did you
awesome
see
pumps.
that video recently where I think Victor from Worldwide
Yeah,
Corals visited Ecotech, and you saw like the production facility and
it
everything?
is
That was cool.
huge. Like
Yeah, man.
it is huge. I was amazed at like how big their warehouse is. It's super cool that they make everything in house. So I thought that was really cool. Like I've seen their old factory, but it's really cool to see the new one.
I knew they made so I knew they made everything in house. That I
Mm,
knew on
yeah.
one end. I knew they have great support on the front end.
Hmm.
I didn't realize there's still so much testing they do to their products in between. So you
Yeah.
have great support and you have great design and you also have quality control. But
Yeah.
they had where they were testing like the Nero 5s, where I
Hmm.
think, I don't know who was given Victor the tour, but he was talking about we'll eventually get to the point where we're doing sampling. That means like I'm taking that as
Oh, that
every
crazy
Nero
machine
5
that's like
that's,
measuring every like 1/100th of a
yes,
millimeter type of thing. Yeah, that was crazy.
I took that as every Nero 5 is tested then for the tolerances, because if you're going to get to the point where you're sampling, you're not sampling yet, so you're testing every one. So I thought that was nuts. I was like,
They test every
all the
single one.
machine.
I just assumed they'd
Yeah,
randomly pull and test.
well, if the guy said we want to get to the point, unless I'm
Huh.
mishearing, like I'm getting old, Dev, so I could be mishearing, but
I feel old
he
today.
said he wants to get to the point where you want to sample. He wants to get to the point where he can do sampling. So if you want
Hmm.
to get to that point, if that's a goal, I mean, you're not there yet. So they're testing every single one, which is cool, mind boggling to me. But also
Yeah,
when they do the chips, just the soldering, when they make their own chips, just the machine, and those aren't cheap. Like I just
that was
Googled some
cool
of
to
those.
see.
Those aren't cheap machines where
No.
they're testing the soldering to make sure it's good. And then they're hand inspected.
Yeah,
Yikes.
that's crazy. I mean,
I
that's
know.
why they're a little more expensive, but it's nice to know that there's an issue, then they fix it, they deal with it. Like Yeah, I don't know. Like my skimmer needle wheel broke and it's NIOS, but they distribute NIOS, so I contacted their support and then fixed my skimmer yesterday. Like I don't know, they're awesome to deal with, so that's why I'm a fan of them. But
Yep.
huh,
Yeah.
super
I
cool
was
though.
really, really impressed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love it. So crazy. I get to go visit the new one day when I can actually travel again. Yay, one day.
Can I just I know we spoke about this in the setup, but can I just take a minute to talk about pizza for a second?
Oh,
So
yes, you can. All right, fill us in.
so I think the guys from Worldwide, Vic and Lou, have a pizza store in Orlando, Nexus
They do.
Pizza, which is New York pizza. It's a New York
That
pizza
was
store.
called?
Man, I had it. And so before it even got to the point where, hey, New York from Brooklyn. So before it even got to the point where, I thought this was New York pizza, there's some characteristics of New York pizza, physical that you have to do. So the pizza is made, and then you kind of say you want a slice, and then the guy warms it up in the oven. The oven
Mhm.
looks a certain way. It has to be foldable, like New York pizza, you got to be able to fold it and bite it. And then when you're finished, your plate has to have some grease. It's not New York pizza if there's not grease falling off or somewhere. And I say, like,
That's
they
the
hit
requirement.
all those before it even got to the point where the taste. So man, the pizza was good. It was like it was good. Like I had good New York pizza in Orlando.
Hmm.
And another thing that I guess is a step up from what I usually have is you don't find a lot of places in like Brooklyn or New York when you have pizza like that where the crust is crispy.
Yeah,
Like you'll get it and it's a nice, but this was crispy, which I like. So when you're biting into it, you got a little bit of a crunch.
nice.
So that was cool. I heard about it, and it was definitely worth checking out. So it's not too far from the Worldwide Coral store, but I think it's so. If
Okay,
you want
two
some good
important
New York pizza,
questions. Since you're
mhm,
from New York, how does it compare to actual New York pizza? How would you compare it?
it is good.
Yeah.
Good. It is good. Tastes good. They have Brooklyn, old Brooklyn. They sell some Brooklyn like cream soda, which is like some Brooklyn, not even New York City, a Brooklyn like cream soda. They sell
Hmm.
Junior's cheesecake there. Now I had enough Junior's cheesecake where I didn't need to buy it, but the fact that there's Brooklyn New York cheesecake being
Hmm.
sold in the store, that
Nice.
just like yeah, that just so um that's sorry the last time in New York, Dev. I didn't take you to Junior's cheesecake. I should have.
Next trip. Let's do
Um,
it.
yeah, that was. But if you're ever in Orlando,
Yeah.
worth checking out the pizza and getting some pizza and Junior's cheesecake.
Okay, another important question. Did they have a reef tank in the pizza store?
No, they didn't. I never
Oh,
I never thought about that until you said it today. I never thought about that, but you know what? That's the next level.
they
Maybe
should. Big reef tank when you walk in. Be awesome.
maybe yep. Maybe they
Oh,
should then have pizza in the railroad corals. You know?
uh,
Nah,
they,
nah, nah. There's no food allowed. I don't think I want food around my retake. Nah,
yeah, no,
no.
that's fair.
That's something I just said out loud, and now I realize it's not a good idea.
Free pizza with every coral purchase. At the end of like, lunchtime, let's go buy a frag.
Yep. Somebody said you need New York water, though.
Was
I
it you
didn't
that sent
ask it
me?
that deep.
Was it you that sent me the article about that? With the water in the crust?
Yeah.
Somebody did.
So from what I've read, there is something where the average New York, so the average New York pizza will be good because like the calcium content in our water.
Hmm.
Um, so I've read something like that. So you know what? I got to do some more research on that. But there's other places you can get good pizza, and it's 190. Like the pizza wasn't crazy. Like when I saw the price of the pizza, Dev, like
It was good.
yeah, oh the price is like ridiculous. Like I got 5 slices and it was like $10, so it's probably $2 a slice, which
Oh,
is
cheap.
cheaper than what you get a slice for in Brooklyn these days.
What's it called? The pizza place? People are asking.
Nexus Pizza.
Nexus Pizza. Okay,
Nexus
nice.
Pizza.
Now, random, completely not really off topic, but off topic thought. If, in theory, the water in New York was part of the secret sauce to it, one could ICP test the water, and they could tweak the calcium contents of different things until they mimic it.
You
That,
could.
that'd be hardcore
Um,
next level. But if you're into reefing anyways, it doesn't seem that far off.
I know we have great water here in New York because I've never gone through like an RO membrane. I've always just thrown them away after 3 or 4 years because I just think
Hmm.
they're going bad. But I'm now using a SpectraPure RODI system. And my old
Nice.
RODI was, yeah, I got it when Marine Depot, they're going out of business sale. I decided to try the SpectraPure. But my old RODI system was a BRS one that I put together myself. And I had like, I think it was either a 3 stage and a single, but I know I was measuring the TDS at 4 stages. First in,
Hmm.
after the first membrane, after the second membrane, and after the DI.
Yeah.
And there were times when our TDS going in was like 10,
Oh, it's like nothing.
20.
Oh, that is
Yes,
good.
yes, our sediment filters. Now I know because we're doing construction in New York on our like water tunnels, but if you ever get a chance, the read up on the New York just aqueduct system, it is
Hmm.
like close to the Canadian border. There's a catchment area, and there are no pumps. It's all gravity fed all the way down to New York City, and I think it gets to the third floor of buildings in New York. I
Yeah,
know,
that's
random
crazy.
fact, but yeah,
And then if they're above third floor, don't they have like a reservoir on the roof they have to pump it up to, and then the gravity feeds
you,
down? Yep,
yep, you
I
pump it.
remember
That's why you
this.
see those big wood reservoirs when you see New York buildings, older New York buildings. So that's what it is. I know we've gone off topic talking about pizza, but
Extremely
um,
good for
yeah,
pizza, good for reef tanks. Win-win.
yeah.
Pizza keeps
Hmm.
the reefer happy. It all works all around. So did you make
Maybe
it
it
to?
is. Maybe it is. I saw Tracy said maybe it's a high alkalinity. It could be, and maybe I just read calcium, so it could be the ag. I think it's one of the two.
So this is an interesting question. Could you, I wonder if you could just like add a bit of alkalinity to it and how much it would affect it? It's weird.
Um, hmm, maybe you could. Maybe you could.
This could be some for
You
science
know.
stuff.
Yep.
All right. So you didn't make it any other stores, just WWC times 3 times?
I did not.
No.
I did not. This whole by 10 minutes, I'm staying 10 minutes away from WWC, so I made it 3 times. Um, yeah. There's a couple of. I don't want to say next time, but the next time I'm around, I'll probably check out Top Shelf and Living Reef. I heard good
Those are
things
the
about
two I'd
those,
recommend
but
actually. They're both cool
yeah.
stores. Um, yeah, Living Reef, super nice store. It's like big, long, super crisp, clean aisles. Top Shelf, I know they were moving their farm last time I was there. Again, this is like probably 2 years ago, so I'm sure it's all done by now. But seeing all the stuff in the back and all their grow tanks was super cool when I was there probably 2 years ago now. But yeah, they're pretty
Okay.
cool.
All right. Um,
Yep,
so I guess like next Reefapalooza Orlando, you'll probably, if everything is back to normal-ish.
should be good by then.
All right. That's next April-ish.
Yep, there's high hopes for that. This year's
There's
kind of
no
a
hope
write
for
off, but we'll
there's,
probably
there's
spring.
no hope for Chicago.
I don't know, probably not. I've written everything off for the next few months until it's not a pain to go places. So we'll see.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right, fair.
I know, eh? All right. Question. You have hydros on one tank. Do you have any controllers on the other tanks?
I have hydros on. I have hydros on both tanks.
On both? So you
Um,
have two of them?
both. I have two hydros.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tested the hydros with the control too on my nano tank. I had it from day one, and I really liked it. It didn't cause me any issues no matter what I try. I threw a lot at it, and it worked fine. So I felt comfortable like ripping the apex. Rip sounds so harsh, but taking the apex off and doing the hydros
Mm-hmm.
on my main tank. I saw that Control 3 is coming out, and I'm actually
On
really
my stream
excited
last
about
week?
that. Yes. Because I do need, so I need to put a calcium reactor back on. And I'm currently, I have an ozone generator. I haven't
Hmm.
like actually turned it on yet because I didn't want to turn it on, get the tank used to it, and then leave on vacation. Just one of
Yep.
those.
Don't
I
change
guess I
things
listened
before you
to my,
leave.
yeah, I listened to my advice or our advice or your advice or many people's advice in that regard. But
Hmm.
I was trying to I need to run a calcium reactor, so I need an extra pH port. And
Hmm.
you don't want to go to the $400 just Hydros Control 4. So the Control 3 is a nice in between where you get a pH port, and you can connect it to your you know to your main hydro system. So
Yeah.
that's my next. That's probably going to be my next purchase. But yeah, I've been running
Solid.
hydros now for since day one. So I've been through all the updates.
Yeah.
Um, so far it's
So far, so good. I have a
so far
question
so
for you.
good.
What do you use for a home router? What's your Wi-Fi in the
Um,
house?
Google,
Use it Google? Does it work well?
yes, it works well. Before that, I had Apple, and I held out on an Apple until it went down, and they weren't selling it anymore.
Hmm.
So I purposely do not use the cable system router. Like I avoid that at all costs. That is the bane of a lot of people's Wi-Fi
Yeah.
issues. So I use Google, and I at first when I had the Hydros, it didn't work well with my extender, but now I've re-enabled my extender and it's working fine.
Nice.
So there
No.
was some software update
Okay.
they did, you
Oh,
know,
that's good. I thought you had the mesh kind of network, so I was curious how it worked with how well it worked with that.
didn't work well when it first came out. That's I actually had to unplug my extender to get my hydros to work well to at first it was the setup where I would see two different networks instead of one, but again these are past issues that they've solved.
Hmm.
um Wireless plug bars, I've heard there was a big deal about wireless not being reliable when it first came out, but I am a remote worker, Dev. Like I work from home.
Yep. Me
I've
too.
been VPN, remote access, secure remote access for some of the clients I work with for a while, and video calls with multiple people. Sometimes I'm on video calls at work with 20, 50 people shown at one time. And I don't see why, maybe if something is using outdated tech, but if
Hmm.
you have reasonable modern like Wi-Fi, I don't see why it would be an issue. So
Yeah, no, I was just
um,
curious more on the mesh network, but I know with
it
all the
works fine.
firmware updates, it gets better every time. Now you
Yeah,
don't have is your Apex completely offline now?
completely offline. I had kept it for the Trident,
Hmm.
but then I just when my Trident needed like some service, I just couldn't. Um, yeah,
They did an update on it, so there's a new little dashboard when you open it now, as of the other day.
for the
This is
Net
on
Apex.
Apex. This is on Apex. And
Ooh,
then if
I
you click this, that's not what I wanted. If you click the top left, you can see all different tanks, which I have access because I help far too many people with their tanks. So you can see all different tanks on the side, which is kind of funky. And if you click on the bottom, it goes to normal. So they changed
how
it a
come I
bit
don't see that?
because
How come I don't see that? I
you
still have
probably
a bunch of people who but I am not. I still have the old. Do I need
oh
to update the app?
yes
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. That is probably the first time I've opened Apex Fusion in a while.
Mm-hmm. Dun dun dun.
All
Netgear Nighthawk. That one actually looks pretty crazy. I was actually looking at Asus has some crazy gamer router with like a bazillion antennas. That's like a few $100. I was debating it, and then I found like a used Asus one for $50. So I'm buying that later to upgrade mine slightly newer, but
right.
hopefully it
Okay.
works better.
Yeah,
Decided to go
I
cheap.
think just this is not even like a controller thing. I just think the cable company router I just almost never use.
Oh yeah, they always
I
have
just
terrible Wi-Fi.
yeah, I don't think they're good. I just always try to stay away from them. Oh, okay, Dev. I see what you're talking about
Did you
now.
just update it?
Oh yeah. Okay, I didn't even get to it yet. I'm just at the login screen. It just looks different. The
Yeah.
interface looks different, but okay, all right. I see you. I see you.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just noticed that yesterday. I was playing with it, so I was curious if you did, because I know you swap,
Well,
but I don't know if you still had your Apex or not. So
no. What controllers are you running?
yes to all. I have an Apex on the water box, and then I have a GHL, and I have a Hydros. So I got all
Okay,
the main ones.
and you're running Mobius, I'm assuming,
Yeah, which is
and
like
you're
kind of a controller in the making.
yes. So you know what? When I was talking about my entire like spiel about what I'm using, I actually forgot to mention that right now I'm using two part, and I'm actually adjusting my dosing based on because I'm not using the alkatronic to dose. Like
Yeah,
I don't trust it that much yet to auto adjust for me.
you're
Um,
okay. I waited like a year of only monitoring. Anyways, okay, go on.
all right, but I'm using Mobius remotely, and I
Ooh,
have to say
nice
that
Wi-Fi.
yeah, it is just it's working. Like I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, and I even tried, you're not supposed to play with your lights, but since I was, looking at it on camera, I played with some of the levels and I saw it adjust in real time. So that was really cool. Yeah, it's not a controller per se, but if you have someone relative, like I always think of my wife, like if she was starting a reef tank without me in the picture, like she would choose Ecotech equipment and then, wouldn't need all the crazy controller that I have on the tank. She would just use, hey, I can control my lights and my pumps. And if I need to dose
Well,
something, I can just get a dosing pump that just integrates and they just talk to each other. Like it's cool. Like, yeah,
yeah,
I'm adjusting my dosing pump here. I have my aqua power off. That's why it's disconnected. But yeah,
hmm,
these are connected.
nice.
I can adjust my, yeah. And no, this is independent of a controller. This is just Mobius.
Yeah. That's one big advantage I think they're going to have long term with Ecotech is you basically get a controller without buying a controller, right? You're like, oh, my stuff just works together all of a sudden. And, when they come out with like a plug bar or something eventually, and you can actually control stuff, and then you're like, boom, this basically turned into a control all of a sudden. Like, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I am of the I know we've discussed like a plug bar, but I think like I don't even think I'm not saying they're not planning it, but I don't even think it needs to get to that part because hey, let's say like a Nios DC version comes out that
Hmm.
is using like a specialized vector pump or something.
I already
Um,
tried to push them towards that no love yet. I was like,
yes,
yeah, you
so
should make
now
a
you
needle
have
wheel
your
impeller.
lights, pumps, skimmer,
Yep.
return pump, flow pump. Like, if you have a simple reef, I mean, when you get to the point where you need a calcium reactor, you're an advanced reefer and you need specialized equipment. But if you're looking at just a simple reef, um, that's gonna look good in your living room, like that is good. And I hate using the word good enough because we're talking about expensive, good equipment, but
Yep.
it's yeah,
Does
it's
the
not
job.
that it's good enough. It negates, it lessens the need for you to have like another controller on top of that.
The only other thing I would add is a heater controller. But eventually, I mean, maybe they'll come out with that eventually. Who knows, right? But it's the only one other thing I'd say would be wise to have. Aside from that, I mean, realistically, you could get away and have all that control, but still keep things super simple, which I fail at. But it always seems like a nice appeal.
That's a good call on the heater controller. That is a really good call. That is probably the one. Um, but there's like inkbirds. Everything I have on my tank is smart. Um, I was playing with the new X1 Doser Pro T. Is it Pro T? Um, do you
Kimura?
know which one I'm talking? Yeah, the Camor. It's the same one as the Bluetooth doser. It's the same form factor, except it's called the. There's a Camor X1 and there's a
X1
Camor
Pro.
Pro and there's a X1 Pro T that is a continuous duty slash all the other stuff that the Pro does. And I actually got it the day before I leave, and I didn't want to set it up. Um, and sort of again that rule we have where you're not supposed to hook stuff up before you go. But I have the app. It's called Kamor Remote, and it actually works well. I just haven't hooked anything up on it.
Huh.
So that is a continuous duty
It's a stepper
dosing
motor.
pump.
I don't know what the
Yes,
T
stepper
stands for, but
motor,
stepper.
and it's the same form factor as the little Bluetooth one.
Bob, thank you
Ooh,
so much for the super chat. Mighty kind, sir.
ooh, ooh.
Much appreciated. So, I don't know what the T stands for, but I'm assuming it's something to do with the stepper motor model, which I think is stepper motors are much more precise than normal, but continuous duty is always another big advantage for Kalkwasser or calcium reactors, calc reactors, or all that type of stuff. Even dosing, like I still like to run stuff continuous and super slow because then you just get a very slow, consistent drip.
Do you not get like alkalinity, like crystallizes at the edge if you're doing that? That's my fear.
Um, Technically, wouldn't you have less because it's keeping it hydrated more often and stuff's flowing through it rather than do it and then it sits and dries up a bit?
Mm.
I don't know.
You've said that to me twice before,
Was I
and
right?
I need to let it sink in. No, I haven't tried it. I've just been, it's one of those things where I'm just scared, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to try
Mm-hmm.
it. I'm going to try it. I need to get my hands on a calcium reactor and sort of, go in that direction, but I'm going to try it. I'm just scared because I think that little drop peeking out at the edge before it falls, it's going to crystallize. So,
I
it's
guess
just,
there's probably a scale, right? If you're dosing like crazy slow amounts, then maybe that would be an issue. But if you're doing like a semi frequent one, I think enough flow would flow through it. That'd be okay. Um,
that's the same reason I haven't gone to what you're describing for my Kalkwasser, because even though I'm doing almost 2 liters a day, I'm still, worried about like the slow drip. Um,
okay, Tracy says put it below the water level and you'll never have to worry about it.
okay.
Well, hmm. So would
Uh,
it seep up the hose? But I guess if you're using a parasolic pump, it pinches the line, so you're not really going to get backflow. So it might creep in a little bit just through like it equalizing itself. But I tried putting
that,
the yeah, I had the calcium reactor one underwater, so I guess it's probably fine. Internet
I
goes.
saw a I saw a question earlier where someone was asking, "How did your tank do during the heat wave?"
Mine? Oof.
Yeah,
I lost a few torches, but aside from that, it was fine. So that
um,
sucked.
I had a I had a couple of weeks ago where my heater, my chiller failed,
Hmm.
and it was it wasn't like full on tank crash, but it was pretty devastating to some things that were doing well. I actually need to, so it's actually user error on my part because I had my chiller hooked up wrong. The inlet was on the outlet. So I guess it was able to work fine until it got to like really, um, like really high levels.
Yeah.
But the chiller, especially with the new Lagoon tank, the additional water volume, I think it's at
Hmm.
the edge of where it's comfortable. So I'm actually gonna I picked up a controller from the store. I brought it back because I changed my mind, and I need to go get it again when I get home. So I'm actually gonna get a
What are you gonna get?
bigger chiller. Like I'm using the oh my gosh, I can't remember the name. They are the chillers, and they always do the martini chillers whenever you see them at like Rap California. Um, Let me, man, why can I not remember these chillers? They're an
What
Italian
JDG?
chiller brand.
Okay. Martini chillers. I've missed this apparently.
When they were at Rap California, they always have this, like their display is, their thing is, they have this like martini thing where they're chilling like a martini. Oh
Hmm.
man, why can't I? Teco chiller. It's a
Okay.
Teco chiller. Yeah, it's an Italian brand. Um, BRS doesn't
Oh, I see.
carry it. You have to find it at like smaller specialty shops, but I like it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen those. Although I haven't been around California, so that's probably half the battle. Need to make it there one day.
It exhausts at the top, which is I like.
Hmm.
And then you can. It's a lot quieter than the JBJ, I will say that. And then you have the option of choosing where to vent it, at the front, at the back, at the side.
Nice.
And my plan was to see if I can somehow attach, like, like those air conditioner vents, things
Hmm.
that when you're not air conditioner, dryer vents.
Yeah.
So I see if I can vent it through the window.
Hmm.
But they're definitely more quiet and definitely a little bit more efficient than a JBJ. JBJ is I think I think JBJ support is better. Like I have to say, Teco. I don't remember who distributes them in the US, but I
Hmm.
think JBJ's chillers have better US support. I think JBJ is an American company,
Yeah.
but the JBJs are louder. The
Yeah.
Teco is, it's an Italian company. Yeah, I think so.
LXG, glad I don't need a chiller. I would normally say the exact same thing, but I had about 2 weeks where it was like 110, 115 here, and it was way hotter than normal, and it was just roasting. So I could have used one for a bit there, but then I'm like, do I buy one? Do I need it for that 1 month of the year? Or the randomly could be a week here, a week there. I don't know. That's a thing. For global warming is a legit thing because it normally never gets that hot here.
So, so I think from what I was told is, well, even though it was user error, I think I was told it's the spike really that
Oh,
was
it could be the
devastating
swing,
because
right?
usually the tank is about 80, and when it got
Hmm.
up to 87 over the course of just a few hours, because that was a few weeks ago or maybe a month and a half ago in New York where we had like a 90-degree, 95% humidity like weekend.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably where the chiller struggled um, to like do anything because if the air has so much moisture you can't vent, then I
Hmm.
think that's where it probably struggled.
Yeah.
But I think the spike. So I've heard people say, "Hey, I keep my tank at like 82-ish, and it's fine there." But I think
But
I
it's
think probably
always
that.
there. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like mine's normally 77, 78. So 80, 81, 82 is high for me. Like that's like a 5 degrees Fahrenheit swing. Like it's pretty big. So
Okay.
I
That's
think
true.
it's relative, right? If you constantly keep your tank high, it can do it. But then on the flip side, in the winter when it's colder here, then it's a lot more energy and heat to keep it hotter the rest of the year. So I purposely keep it, 77, 78 because it's kind of a bit of a compromise.
How do you keep your tank at 77, 78 in the summer? Is it just central air just keeps it that cold?
Yeah, normally, yeah, it works. But even now, like I have those two PC fans on there, which actually makes a pretty decent difference for cooling. You'll see like the temperature, like as the fans kick on and off, because I told them to turn on at 79.5 now. So it keeps it for the most part under 80. But yeah, no, this air conditioning in the house, and then I got those two 120 mil Noctua fans that blow on it when it gets toasty, which helps quite a bit.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I guess I'm gonna have to think. I don't know if it's just the apartment dynamic because then it gets, um, yeah, our electric cost in New York City is crazy. So I think when you run so I think what I usually get up in the morning, turn the AC on for a bit, cool the apartment down, and then try to coast until like the evening hours when you get to because I think those peak hours from like 8 to 3 you use AC during that time, it's really like the most expensive. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, our power. I think I did something where I compared power, and I think we pay like other than California. I think New York, like our electric bill is like our
Oh,
electric costs are just ridiculous.
my last two were so brutal from basically running the AC 24/7. Ooh, scary,
Yeah,
scary,
and here
scary.
in New York, we don't have central in a lot of apartments, so I have like 3 window units, and yeah, yeah, could be brutal.
Yep. Ugh, yeah, my power bill's been scary the last few months with this heat wave. Now the smoke can't even open the windows, so it's just like AC 24/7 and gotta do what you gotta
You
do.
lucky, you lucky, lucky, lucky.
Lucky for heat waves and forest fires. Yay.
Oh, I always see you like in the winter and like photos of you are like big white. So I
Yeah.
don't know why I think like, hey, in the summer, Dev has snow on the ground even in the summer. So when you told me today we're having a heat wave, I'm like, Canada?
Yeah, that's the
No.
thing, right? You're like, what? You're in the cold. It's hotter here than it's hotter for me in Kelowna, BC, than it is for you in Florida right now.
That is hard for me to fathom because it gets so cold there. Ah,
Okay, currently in Florida, it's 84, a-
yes,
and for
it,
me,
it's it's
it
exactly
is
84 where I
94.
am in
I'm
Orlando.
I'm 10 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than you where I am right now.
Dev,
Exactly.
I would have never guessed. Like
Most people don't.
when I was in the pre-show, when I was talking to you, like that
Mm,
wasn't a joke. Like I couldn't believe that. Okay, you learn something new every day.
yeah, I mean, I'm on the West Coast, just above like Washington, Seattle, so I'm not that far above the border. But yeah, the West Coast is definitely a lot warmer too. So,
Yeah,
yep.
it is beautiful. Um, well, not okay. Let me not use beautiful. Beautiful is the word I would use, but it rains so much here. The grass need so since I've been on this resort, I think they've cut the grass like every 2 days. I think because it rains so much, like maybe the grass just they have so much access to water and nutrients, they just grow. Um, like everything is so lush and green, even though it's so hot. So I guess the trees are getting the nutrients they need to grow. Um,
Hmm.
Yeah, like Florida would be perfect, except for the
The humidity
suffocating
is
heat.
brutal though. Like I've been
Yeah.
to Florida one time when it's like gorgeous and nice. I've been another time when you're like dying of humidity because it's so hot and humid there.
Were you in Vegas with me with Paul and when we did that
Yeah.
time Vegas, Magna Vegas?
Yeah.
So in the evenings when we were going out, it was like 110 degrees, but it
At
didn't
night.
feel suffocating because I remember one evening when we were going out, it was like 105, but 0% humidity. So you weren't sweating. There wasn't that muggy feeling
Mm-hmm.
in Vegas. So
It's true.
I like the dry heat better.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference. I was just laughing. They're like Devin melts in the summer. I'm like, I got these little 120 mil computer fans on my desk. I 3D print a little mount so they angle them. So these basically just run 24/7. They keep me
What do
cool.
I what do I need to do to get a couple of those?
Well, I can make you the mounts, and then you just pick a 120 mil fan, and you're get ready to roll.
Have you seen um uh, uh, so um like my backup system was just take every fan in my apartment and like put a couple fans in front of the tank as sort of
Hmm.
like the backup just in case the chiller failed when I
Yep.
wasn't there. I could just activate fans based on the hydro's temperature probe. But I saw Harry's Aquatics. He has like these cool fans
Hang on the
that
back.
plug right into
Yep.
the drive port of the hydros,
Hmm.
which was really cool. I just don't know with my ScreenNet top how I would do those, but
I'll
that
show
was
you what I
really
did.
cool and interesting.
Oh, well, then you need to watch my video update from Monday because I showed it. So I printed
You
his little
did.
thing off, which was super cool. He has two 140 mils that sit inside, and it basically hangs on the back of the tank. I printed off just like a little block that I double side to the back of the tank, and I hang it on that. So it's just at the back, just above the edge, and just kind of blows across the top. But if you like, because there's like other people like me, like it doesn't really make sense to have a chiller because really it's in use like less than a month of the year. But having a computer fan or something just blowing air across the water helps it evaporate. It makes a surprisingly big difference for cooling. Like since I added those, it definitely helped a fair chunk.
All right, so Dev, I'm a little behind on videos. You know,
I showed it,
vacation.
so just see exactly what I did. And that's
All
probably
right,
what you need to do.
all right. So I am gonna check that video out, and then yeah, Tracy, I'm sorry.
He's on
I was
vacation.
at Sea I was at SeaWorld, Tracy. So I think SeaWorld.
I,
SeaWorld on the beach. I forget the heat is scrambling my brain. So I think
I
it was
would
one
be
of
there
those
too
days.
instead if I was you, so understandable.
But I am gonna watch that. But I was thinking of that, like maybe I can, um, maybe I can depend less on the chiller. Um, maybe I won't even need to get the bigger chiller if I can just because one of the also things about the chiller is if you can't put a chiller on like a really tight tolerance
Hmm.
because it like it'll kick on, it'll constantly compressor. So you kind of have to wait until it gets, if you set it at 79, let it come on at like 80.5. So it comes back down, like you kind of, it'll bring it down to like 78 and then wait for it to. So if you have a fan, the fan can kind of keep it a little bit more steady and
Yep.
then have the chiller comes on for those really hot days when you need that extra power. So I was, I was really thinking about that. So yeah, as soon as I get off the stream with you, I'm gonna load that up.
Nice. Okay, so where is here? I'm just gonna pull up one of my temperature graphs just to show you the difference. Like, so if you can see that up down, that's my fan turning on and off. So it has made a fairly substantial difference. And before I had the fan, if we go back, because it's told it to come on at 79.5, which it's been on there for a little while, so you can see all these little spikes. But yeah, so see, before I added the fan, the tank's getting
Okay.
up there. There's 84, here's 81.2. Added the fan on, it's like 79, 80, 79, 80, 79 and a half, 80. It's like constantly just spikes back and forth. So the fan makes a pretty decent difference. So
Okay.
yeah, you can see how much that's crazy. So it's surprisingly how much evaporation can help. Food for thought.
How how much I have a pretty big ATO reservoir, so that's not a big concern for me. But
Mm-hmm.
how much did it affect your, like, how much additional
Not a clue how much I evaporate. I have like a 40-gallon ATO container essentially, so I have no idea. I don't pay attention to it anymore.
okay.
I
I
just see like, oh,
know.
the container's low. Turn on the RODI, or it turns itself on if I miss it. So, yep.
All right. I do about 1.9
Mm-hmm.
because I think 1.8 or 1.9 liters a day in calc because I know that's steady for all 4 seasons. So I think I can do more, especially in the winter. I think because our indoor heat dries the air. So I'm not sure. There are times when I get more evaporation in the winter than in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 1.8, I can stay steady. Like my ATO kicks on every now and again and compensates. But I think about yeah, that number is where I'm sure I don't have to adjust every season to kind of keep the tank from overflowing. So I kind of stay there.
Yeah. Now, okay. So someone's asking, why don't you just cool the whole room? So the tank's in the middle of my upstairs, so it's basically cooling the entire upstairs. It's not in a room. It's like in the middle of the floor plan, which is like the entrance, the dining room, the living room, the kitchen, all the hallways. It's all one big open concepty space. So not really an option. Central AC is my best hope. And like when I used to have a tank downstairs, never had an issue. Upstairs gets so much hotter. It is crazy the difference.
Yeah, I am on the third floor. I don't know. My apartment is just hot. I think where I am, I'm kind of low in between two buildings, so I don't get any ambient breeze or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think running the AC 24/7, my light bill would be crazy. Um, and let me see. And I also pull outside air with
Mm-hmm.
my skimmer. So, and I do use like a giant Royal exclusive skimmer. So, well, not a giant, but big it for the tank. And I think that probably has something to do with. I think I think it cools the tank down in the winter. But I think when you're pulling outside air and injecting it into your tank, I think that
Mm-hmm.
probably has a lot to do with,
That's
keeping the. Yeah.
I've actually wondered that. I haven't because I'm pulling attic, which is hot, right? Like that's gonna be some toasty air. I wonder how much that actually affects the tank temperature, which could be part of my issue, to be honest. At least in the summertime, I
Sounds
should
like
try
an
dis.
experiment,
I
Dev.
should disconnect it for a few days and see how much of a difference it makes.
Yep, sounds like I smell an experiment.
Yep,
Well, put something up there to measure the ambient temperature of the
hot.
of the attic and see,
I should.
um,
It's
yep.
I got this funky thing. So I have one in here. I have like one upstairs, one downstairs, a little sensor outside. It's like $30 on Amazon, but it's cool because it tells me the humidity and temperature of all these different places. So on my deck right now is 34 degrees.
Okay. You have sensors for that all over the house?
Yeah, it was like $35 on Amazon. It's cool. And it came with three remote sensors, so I can be like, oh, how is it upstairs, downstairs, outside? It's kind of
Can
fun.
you send me?
And humidity. Sure, I'll find it.
All right. How far? Okay. Well, I'll try. It's not like I live in a, you know, giant space, but that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool. Partially for me with like the air exchanger and stuff. When I got it, I want to see like, what's the humidity in this house? Because the humidity is the other part I care about, right? So, okay, how I was outside, was it keeping up with what's my humidity upstairs? What is it downstairs? What's it in my office? Like, it's cool to see the differences everywhere.
Okay.
But yeah,
The joys of a basement tank. Yep.
I know. It's so much cooler in the basement though, so that's definitely a nice bonus.
Yep. Farm Frag said he had his home AC break during a heat stroke.
Oh,
Heat spike.
brutal, eh? Ugh,
Wow.
I feel sorry for you. Mine was struggling, but if it was like nothing, it'd be done. I'd melt. If you, although fans make a big difference, even having air blowing at you makes a big difference, but no fan, it's like, ooh.
Yeah,
John,
I've heard. I saw somewhere. I'm not sure if it's in a scientific paper, but I heard the fans help because it just moves that top layer of air, hot air, and
yeah,
allows the tank to like evaporative cool. Evaporative cooling is very works well.
super efficient. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, I'll copy this, but I'll forget to give it to you. Dun,
John
dun, dun.
Reefer to tonight's tuition. Whoop whoop. John,
Dang,
you get a
John.
half of
Thanks,
that.
man.
You get a half of that straight.
Thank you, John. Much appreciated. Okay, let me post
Namaste.
this, or I will forget about it. All right, post it in the chat. I'll send it to you later again too.
Thank you.
It's in my
All right.
thing. That's the one I got, and I don't know. It's for the $35 server. Was it super cool? John, thank you very much. Okay, so if you don't have chiller, moral of the story is computer fans, 100% worth it. It makes a surprisingly big difference.
What is the? Are you concerned long term about like the computer fans? Is the humidity or just the salt water just anything you or just not a concern for you at this time?
So you have two options. One, you could buy fancier fans and not worry about it, or two, you can just accept if it in a year or two you need to buy a new one, then it's only like $10, or you spend 25 or $30 on like the Knock 2 industrial fans that are made for humid environments. Like these are not the industrial ones, these are just the ones that are cooling me. But they do have the Knock 2 industrial, which are a little more expensive, but they have, yeah, they're made to run in humidity and wet environments, like they're built for that, so they can definitely handle it. So you either go
Okay.
cheap or you go fancy. Take your pick.
Okay. All
Like
right.
if I was,
I'll go.
yeah, go cheap. If
I'll
I
go
was,
cheap first,
yep.
and then after that breaks, then go fancy because I try so much stuff. I don't know if I'm going to stick with it.
How do you think AC and refrigerator works evaporative cooling? I mean, it all is just a air exchanger at the end of the day. Same with your car, same with your radiator, right? That's what a chiller is, same thing. Same with your air conditioner, it's just running some fluid through a radiator with air blowing through it. So it all helps.
I way above my pay grade. I don't drive, but I get what you're saying. I get it. I
Yep.
get the concept.
Yep.
I get the concept.
I know. The one that cools you. Yep, exactly. So I don't know. I recently upgraded my computer and I did water cooling for the first time ever. And I had that realization thing because as I do the little radiators inside of there, I was like, huh, that's the same as the air conditioner for the house. Same as the car. It's all the same technology. Same as the chiller.
Now, Dev, you've asked me a lot of questions about what I did. when I was, away on vacation. But I
Yep.
know recently I spoke to you and you were up close to the Arctic Circle
When there's a heat wave
for,
going on.
so you were up close to the Arctic Circle. So let me flip the script. Like, what did you do to prep the tank, going away?
So if I sorry, there's something hitting this fan blade. There you go. So if I'm going away, the little thing was touching the blade. So if I'm going away, the basic things I normally do is, NPL the skimmers, the alcatronic auto top off, like make sure it's full of water, make sure I got lots of filter roller left. It's not going to run out when I'm gone. Make sure the skimmer's not going to overflow. Basically, like those are the main things that I take a look at. I do have an auto feeder, but I rarely use it. I usually bribe someone just to feed the fish and look on it because usually I have someone looking after the dog anyways. So that's basically for the most part what I do. If I'm away, I generally can use, like Apex or Hydros or JHL or whatever, one of the controllers to tweak things on the tank if need be. And for the most part, that works fairly well. Like with now that I have Wi-Fi on the Versa, I could turn my calcium reactor fluent up or down, which is big. Before that, I had to like tweak my pH up or down to adjust it, right? So I mean, there's different ways of doing it, but it's nice to be able to do that for now.
Okay. So
Yep.
you have remote Versa access also. Okay.
Yeah. Don't you? No, not
Okay.
yet. If
I do, but I just you didn't say anything. I'm here boasting about my Mobius remote access, and you just there like, oh, that's cool. Not even like saying you have it too.
yeah, no. Well, I was beta testing, so I've actually had it for a while. So uh, I like to beta test stuff. It's fun.
All right,
Yep.
all right.
But yeah, the biggest thing is backup battery for your router. Yep, that's a good one. If you don't have a UPS, always wise to have, especially for your router. If power goes to something else, you won't know about it if your power is off, right? So if you have, same with like your Hydros, right? If your power went out, you couldn't get to your controller. I guess you get the alerts that your controller is offline, but it's nice to be able to still tweak stuff if need be.
Right.
Next question. Do you have a battery backup on your tank?
Do I have a what?
Battery backup for your tank.
I do not, Dev. So that is my next purchase.
Yep.
Funny enough, man, Worldwide Corals is the only retail store I actually saw battery backup on the shelves ready for purchase. That is the only retail place I've actually seen one in person ready for sale. No, I don't. That's my purchase. I don't know if when like Fight Club, the only rule of Fight Club is you're not supposed to talk about Fight Club. I don't know if the only rule of Ecotech experts is you're not supposed to talk about Ecotech experts, but I was a little bit, like sad when they took that off because that was going to be my next experts purchase. So Jay, if you're listening, Jay, I don't know you, but I know you and Dev are cool, but we might need that battery backup back on experts. I'm gonna get a bunch. I'm gonna get a bunch of people to email you and ask you, to put it back. Even people who not necessarily want it, but I'm gonna get the masses to ask you to put it back so we can get them.
I have one. So I have the official Ecotech one on my frag tank, and I have DIY one on my water box. But I know you have Vortex on your tank, so it's super easy to DIY one or buy the legit one either way. But I think power heads on battery backup is important, just for power, especially if you're away, right? Because that could save your tank. Food for thought.
Yep,
Flow and oxygen
I,
exchange is
I
life.
I would get two, one for the return and one for the vortex.
Mm.
Yeah. Yep. I just want to. I saw something in the chat where someone says auto feeders don't trust them, and I 100% agree. But in this instance, I kind of didn't have any choice. Plus, my stuff goes through Clarity anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so I am. Yeah, so I purposely was very tested a couple of weeks before I left just to see how the tank, how the food settled, what
Yeah.
happened to it, where did it go, did the cleanup crew get it, and yeah, so I was very like this time I was meticulous a little bit with just seeing how the food behaves. Of course, my skim mate tends to be stinker and drier when I use um, pellets versus frozen food. So I just considered that an added benefit going away on vacation. There's a less chance, even though my skimmer hasn't overflowed in a while, but there's a less chance of a skimmer overflow when it's skimming drier. But yeah, even if it overfeeds, well, you never want your food to overfeed, but at least it's going through a clarity.
Yeah. Okay. So that's another thing. If you don't normally use an auto feeder and you're putting one on just for vacation, it is wise to, let it run in your desk for a day or two, or do something to capture it so you actually get a feel for how much food it dumps out. Because sometimes they're not consistent, right? Especially depending on your pellet size. So it is a good idea to like literally let it sit on the counter and put a piece of paper under it and just like monitor it for a few days and make sure it's actually putting out what you think it is. So you're not just shoveling food into your tank when you're gone and come back to an algae ridden tank.
And by the way, they behave different depending on the food you have. Make sure you don't put different size foods in an auto feeder so it's consistent. And you're
Mm-hmm.
right about running it on your desk for a few days because the first time you spin it, it might not be because remember the way auto feeders work is it needs to set up the next feeding in like a little chamber. So if you just do it once and it feed a little, like that might not account for the fact that it's set up the next feeding, which might be, more and more and more and more. So you're right.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. I thought I was just nuts for doing that, setting it up right on my desk in
No,
front of
it's
me, and
smart.
just
It's wise.
yeah. But I wouldn't have said that publicly unless you said it because I thought I was just people would
No.
say I was crazy.
Well,
So
you might
I'm
be
glad you
crazy, but
said
it's
it
still
first.
smart. You're a smart crazy.
All right. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah. Okay. Farm frags. Okay. So he said fish can go months without food. I don't know about months. They could probably go a week. A weekend, I'd say you're probably fine, but a week, I'd feel too bad for them. But now here's food for thought. One, Anthias are super active food or super active fish. They need lots of little snacks. Now, there's also other lots of fish that can become opportunistic, aka corals and other stuff. Where if a fish is well fed, he's less aggressive, he's less likely to go hunting and nibble on things, right? Where if a fish is hungry, he's more tempted to taste some polyps or some other stuff, right? Or be more aggressive to other stuff. So I like to feed, despite that I always have nutrient issues in my big tank, I like to feed heavy because it keeps the peace, especially with lots of fish in a tank, and keeps the coral safer. So that's one of my thoughts around that.
True. I am
Mm-hmm.
actually in the middle of like feeding my tank now with the hydros. So I
Nice.
usually feed
Yep.
and now I am double checking on the camera to just make sure like I know you won't be able to see this on the stream, but you can
Mm-hmm.
see my fish are doing like a crazy feeding response. So
Yeah.
that means they definitely did get some pellets. So yep.
Crazy. Nice. That's cool.
Um yeah. And my glass looks really dirty.
That's about normal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Changing the consistency, volume of feeding can impact stability. Sure can. I, yeah, I used to have an auto feeder that fed daily, and that would still feed frozen at night. It was like daily snacks, a small amount, which might implement it again, but we'll see.
Yeah, I have Antheus, and they seem to be like I think the food I have it packs such a punch that I think I get away with one. But those guys are worldwide corals. They feed once an hour, every hour.
Which
They
is a
feed a
lot
lot,
of food.
yes, but probably why they get good growth, and they
Yep.
do a lot of water changes.
Yep. This is true.
Hmm.
They have massive things on tap. Just
Yep, your skim mate, what how your skimmer produces skim mate, it's different versus the type of food. I tend to get a drier, stinkier skim mate when I do. Um, and again, it depends on how your skimmer is tuned, but I tend to get a drier, stinkier skim mate when I'm using pellets versus when I'm using frozen.
it's always stinky. It's never. Okay, I tried this once. I don't even know if I figured out what the verdict was, but I read this somewhere and I tried it. It's supposed if you put Kalkwasser, a scoop in your skimmer cup, it makes it less stinky. And I actually did do
Yes,
that, but I still don't think I came to a clear conclusion on it. Have you tried this?
I got that from Greg Carroll, and I did try it,
Did
and
it
it
work?
works. I think, yeah, I think Greg explained to me the science a little bit behind it. Has
Yeah.
to do with like sulfur, and I think the high pH of Kalkwasser helps the stops bacteria from getting, you know. But if you have a giant skimmer cup, Dev, like you might need to. I started out by pouring a ton of Kalkwasser in the cup, and I had zero smell. And then
Yeah.
I started to see if I could do less and less and less calc,
Hmm.
where I could get to where minimum amount of calc to get the smell to go away. So I'm currently in the process of tweaking that. But for me, yes, it did work.
How much did you have to add roughly, and how big, or what's your skimmer?
So I have a Royal exclusive Bubble King 160,
Hmm.
and I think I did. You know that you know, I don't. You know what the ratio is of like 2 teaspoons per 100 gallon? I think I did one of that.
Okay, so like a teaspoonish.
Yeah, teaspoonish.
Okay, no, I'm just
But you
curious.
have a Nios 160, right?
The 220 on my big tank, and then 160 on my
So,
frag tank.
ooh, yeah. So you might need two.
2 scoops.
Um,
I'm gonna try it
yeah,
again.
but I got a ton of calc. I don't know what happened where I accumulated a bunch of Brightwell calc and BRS calc. So I
Yep.
have calc to last me for years. So
Ah, perfect.
um,
Excellent.
yeah, yeah, it works. Greg is the one that told me. I don't know if you
Might
may
have been
have
from
gotten it
him.
for someone else other than me, but it worked. It worked for me.
Okay, awesome. Speaking of that, I built a little DIY calc reactor the other day.
Where did I see that? Did you send me a photo, or
Maybe.
did
I
I
don't
see it
know.
on
I'm
Instagram?
I'm
Or
prototyping it.
I
It'll be my
saw
next
that.
week's video. I probably send it. I didn't post it publicly yet because it's probably my next week's video. I'm still testing it before I share it. And if it works well, then I'll share it.
Okay.
But yeah, so far so
Yes,
good.
I think you sent it to me, and I think no, I think we have a group chat going somewhere, and you posted it in
Yes,
it.
yes,
So
yes, yes.
yeah, I did
That's
see
right.
that. I was actually, I mean, I left to go on vacation, but I actually want a. I like the Avast Marine,
Yep.
but I think I was just thinking I would like one that's like a few inches shorter. So when the
Mm,
calc eventually overflows, it's just a little more potent.
yep.
That's what I was thinking. I just think I think the potency. I don't know. That was my thought process, and then I saw your DIY one, but I definitely think I'm going to contact Avast Marine to try to get something custom. Same
Mm,
chamber, same everything.
shorter.
Just I wanted a few inches shorter.
Should be easy enough to do.
Or maybe I can
Now,
just chop it off myself.
probably you'd have to shorten the stir bar too, but I think it's just a collar to connect it, so it's probably doable. Have you
Uh,
used the Avast one before?
that's what I'm using now.
Okay. How do you like it?
I like it a lot. I like the fact that it's continuous duty, and I guess you replace the pump every year or two, or
Hmm.
2 or 3 years. How many of it is rated for? Um, I actually like modified. Like I forgot where I contacted and got the extra valve, so I just made like a union elbow that pointed straight down,
Hmm.
instead of using the barb. But I love it.
Oh,
I've
nice.
used the what is it called, the Reef Octopus one.
Yep.
I've used other calc reactors. I've even mixed calc in my ATO. I'm not a fan of anymore.
Hmm.
And I've also used calc where you mix it up and you dose it. But I'm
Yep.
a big fan of the Avast Marine. Big fan.
Nice.
Um,
So
big fan of it.
I have never used the Avast Marine one. Lots of people like it. I do have the ice cap one, which works well, and then my DIY ones are the only ones I've ever used. So I've always been curious about the Avast one. I've been torn if I like stick with my DIY one, which so far it's working well. The only, I guess, complaint is it's not a massive chamber, so I would have to refill it more frequently. Where a big one, you can like ignore it for like a month. But I think that's the big thing.
Oh, I think I can ignore mine longer than that.
Yeah, see, that's
Yeah.
my DIY one. I put in half a cup of calc, and I think that's roughly all I'll be able to get away with in it. But we'll see. That's what I'm kind
Okay.
of toying with now.
Okay.
I know.
All right.
I know.
Interesting.
I know.
Interesting. Always experimenting.
That's what keeps it exciting and fun. It's
Oh,
like
for me
mad
too.
scientisting, and okay, how can you improve? How can you tweak it? Like, do you need to do it all? No. Is it fun? Yes.
Yeah. I am not the type of person who's gonna just see. It tends to lead me in trouble. This time I'm trying to do SPS dominant.
Yeah.
With euphilia. Let's just say SPS dominant with euphilia,
Nice.
because I can't ever have a tank without euphilia. The wife just would not be a happy camper with that.
Hmm.
So I've been trying to be like I literally just get the blues and just run AV plus and not mess with it. I'm not saying I'm completely like hands off, but
Hmm.
I've been experimenting less. So I am proud of myself for that. But
Now,
um,
that is a good thing because honestly, the more you mess with your tank, the more you kind of offset it, especially with everyone in like hand sanitizer that everyone uses gallons of it these days everywhere you go and all that stuff. Like all that stuff the more your hands are in the tank, the more you're putting the stuff in your tank, right? And the corals aren't gonna like it. So especially the last year or so, that's another consideration. So the more you keep your hands out, the better. I mean, most of my messing arounds now just because I've been obsessed with pH for the last few months, but
one mistake I've made, and I hope this one mistake I made is since it's my first SPS dominant tank, I didn't. I saw all these tanks on Instagram and elsewhere. I got caught up in the hype too, where people just had like frags everywhere.
mm-hmm.
So, as someone who I guess I got FOMO too, and I'm like, frags everywhere. And I realized that some of these corals, before they start to grow, they throw like a huge base. So I haven't even gotten to the tank yet, to the point yet where my corals are like mini colony. Like I'm not even at mini colony level yet, but there are some like the Paletta pink tip. That thing threw out like a huge base that started to like kill some other stuff before it even really started sprouting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the red planet. I
Yep.
think I had it in there and it completely encrusted the rock before. Like I think it was Greg Carroll told me. He's like, that thing throws a huge base. And I think that thing got 2 frags before I realized what was happening. Like so I didn't realize, like I just stuck frags like I put them 2-3 inches apart. Like, hey, that's enough. You see tanks, you don't realize how big the base was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm at the point where I'll have to cut maybe like stuff has been sacrificed, but I just need to cut some stuff out and just
Mm-hmm.
leave space.
To
Yeah,
grow.
and it's not like I'm saying like they're not even at the point where I would say they're huge. They're just some of the stuff just probably puts out a 4-inch 5 diameter base before it really starts going up.
There was one I was looking at today, which was like Hellfire Millie or something like that. It's kind of like Sunset Millie. It's like the green with like an orangey yellow correlates or whatever on it. But same thing. It's in there. It has done nothing for growth, but it's based it out to like this now. But it's still the same 3 little twigs in the middle. It's funny how much it's based before it finally starts to grow up.
Dude, like I think I got on my most prime real estate in the middle of my tank. That's what happened with just everything I put there. Like they in 1 year, of course it's gotten thicker, but
Mm-hmm.
they haven't started sprouting yet, but they've put out like a huge base. And yeah, Millie's just they either win a fight quick or they lose a fight quick. Like there's no like,
Yeah.
especially at the point where yeah, I don't know what it is. I've lost them where I'm like, oh, I got to move that, and then next week it's like psh, gone. Especially when it's a frag, and I guess it hasn't built up its tolerance yet. I
Yep.
guess when a frag encrusting gets attacked by another frag, it just
Yep.
loses the fight. It gives up the ghost really quickly.
Yeah. It's yeah. I just laughing in the chat too. We were saying about before when you put stuff way too close. I've done that. Like I get better every tank, but you still do it, right? You're like, oh, this is good. I'll find a spot for it, and then it's like way too close as things start to grow, and it's hard to not do it. But every tank you get a
It,
little bit better, be more spacious, until you run out of space, and then it's all over again.
this is my first like I've had Montipora mixed tanks. Like I've had mixed tanks. I've had mixed tanks with like
Mm-hmm.
Montipora and Digitata, but this is the first. And I've had one or two like maybe a Millie, an Acro here or there, but this is the first time where multiple colonies of SPS is what I'm trying. So
Yeah.
this is my first time. I remember when I said to Greg when I was like, "Hey, I think this is going to be a problem." After looking at some other people's tanks, he's like, "You won't have to worry about that for a year." Well, guess what? It's a year now,
Yep.
and yeah, Yeah, but I hope I haven't lost anything. Um,
When you get back,
but
hopefully.
yeah, with the base.
Yep.
With Alex, actually, Alex G's is building big
Yep.
tanks. On his old version of his gigantic tanks he had, those corals through the biggest bases I've ever seen. Like he had like a 4 or 5 inch thick branch of like Tonga branch, and he
Hmm.
had a coral that was like hugged the entire 4 inch diameter like piece of rock. So I don't know if it was just a big tank and the coral probably figured like, hey, this is a big tank with a ton of flow, so I need to put out a huge base to be able to handle me growing upward. But
Hmm.
you know what? Maybe that's something to do with it. Maybe you have a ton of flow, like the colony knows, like, hey, I need a big base in order to withstand this. So because
Could
you
be.
do, I have I'm not at the point where I'm growing these, but I've noticed that in tanks with a lot of flow, you tend to have thicker
Yeah,
branches.
this is true.
Yeah, so maybe flow has something to do with it. Maybe they have to withstand that flow, so they tend to
Who
grow
knows?
thicker.
So trees do, so makes sense for coral too, right?
There you go.
All
There you
right.
go.
Alex
Yep. He
G,
said
the base wrapped all the way
base.
around. That's cool.
I remember seeing that. I remember seeing a top-down video or photo, and I was like, "Yeah, that was different. I've never seen that before." It was a 1 inch frag, but somehow that frag knew like I'm gonna need like as much base as I can get, and it totally
Yep.
yeah.
Reef sea
Red Sea
forever.
Forever. It's like they battle it out. That's
Yep.
kind of isn't that Sanjay's mentality where I put it in and
Only the strong survive. Hey, if your tank's around
yeah.
long enough, everything in there's gonna be dang party. Strategy.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
man, we've covered everything from worldwide corals to pizza to controllers to
When we're on, our topics are usually a loose guideline. It's everything else in
yeah.
the middle.
Yep.
Yep.
Um, Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure.
Definitely. And
Anytime. Ask me on anytime.
all right, and I will because I always have fun. Then thanks for joining me while you're on vacation. Thank your wife for me
Thank you.
and your
I
kids.
am going to enjoy. I'm heading home tomorrow, so I'm gonna sort of enjoy my last night in Orlando.
Yep.
Um,
Awesome.
Gonna pack, get ready to go home. But I will definitely let everyone know probably on Instagram how the tanks are doing when I get home.
Perfect. Hopefully everything's well. Let us know. Thank you again for coming on today, buddy. John Reefer Vermont, Bob, and Tracy, thank you guys so much for the super chats. Much appreciated. And so hopefully you guys enjoyed this. As always, hit the like button. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. We'll catch you guys next week's stream.
All right.